This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast. Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustavson, Editorial Director for NAPCO Media and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During the series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the print industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome Jodi Solotoff, owner and president of PIP Livingston. Jodi, welcome.
Thank you.
So can you tell me a little bit about your current company and your role there?
My current company is PIP, which is a franchise. I'm located in Livingston, New Jersey, and I am the owner.
Was printing something you always wanted to do? I mean, you're an owner of a franchise, a PIP franchise, or how did you get started?
It was definitely not part of my plan. My father and stepmother opened this business in 1990. And in 2010, when my father said he was going to retire and sell the business, I left my previous career and said, I'll buy it. And I really knew nothing about it. I'd never even stepped foot in the building.
So why did you decide to make that career change, if you don't mind me asking?
I worked for a company for a long time and I didn't own it. And I never really was interested in what happened here. I knew my father was successful and I knew it was a good business for him, but I didn't have a desire. I thought it was just dirty and boring. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to just talk about, pigeonholes or stereotypes.
Yes.
I just thought it was dirty, noisy, ink on paper, presses running, and nothing fun about it. So I wasn't interested. Then some things just kind of clicked, listening to some conversations between my father and other franchisees. And, I sort of thought, that's not what printing is about. I came into the business in 2010 where marketing service provider. And then when I started hearing about service and variable data and marketing campaigns, and I thought maybe there's more about printing than what I really know. So that's what kind of piqued my interest. And I really didn't learn too much before it. I just let a couple of hour conversations say, let me jump into this with both feet. So I quit my job, I sold my house, and I moved.
Wow. So that's a couple hour-long conversations and you were hooked.
I was hooked.
So it's been an interesting journey for you since you acquired or you bought this franchise. So is it what you thought it was?
Not in the least. Really not in the least. And I guess I will say I just had a preconceived kind of notion that it was boring and it was all about letterheads and envelopes and business cards and nothing interesting and nothing strategic either. It was just about, I really, really thought it was ink on paper. It's anything but that.
You might actually put some ink on paper every now and then, but that's not necessarily all that you do.
No. But to be fair, in the first 20 years that my father and stepmother were in the business, it probably was like that. And I think technology has changed things dramatically for so many reasons. People stopped mailing letters. So how are they getting the attention? And so I think the customers are the same. I think the who is the same in some cases. And a lot of the who's are new. The what, at the end of the day, maybe is the same, right? We still have something on something, right? We still have, maybe it's not ink anymore. Maybe we're using a lot more toner, but it's different. The why is absolutely different. And that's what was intriguing to me. I won't say challenging. I mean, the learning part is always challenging, but you could say that about anything.
Yeah, true.
The learning part was challenging, but getting more involved with customers, right? Because then that changes the dynamic of the business. You're not an order taker anymore. Now you're a partner. Now you're truly, truly a partner with your customer, trying to get effective marketing campaigns, direct mail campaigns, whether it's trade show materials, whether it's pre, during, and post. You're a lot more involved. And printing is very much about events. So it has changed.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. I mean, I joined the industry covering it in the late 1990s, and it's shocking in a way how much the industry has changed in that time.
Sure.
Now, as you're moving into this new career and this new career path, is there anyone that really helped you to get where you are today? Is there any one person, or is there anything or organization that really helped you to build your confidence and your knowledge in this industry?
I won't say it's one person, place, or thing,
Hmm.
but I'm thankful for a lot of relationships. Part of it came naturally, and part of it I kind of, sort of chased a little bit, but I left a state, I left an industry, I left a career to come to a strange place where I knew nobody, to start over again. I'm thankful that my business is a franchise and they're there for, a lot of support. But more
Hmm.
importantly, I also aligned myself with some really, really, really good vendors that also had a vested interest. And it really very much is a two-way street. But when you have great partners in companies like Rico or paper companies and even some software companies, and you develop these strategic partnerships, it really helps. So I won't say it's one person that helped me, but it's the alignment of people. And interestingly enough, most of the relationships and those people that helped me were also women.
Which is fantastic,
Yep.
especially in the printing industry, which, as you and I both know, is very, very much still male dominated. To have that number of support systems and support options for you being women that can help you, I think that's also very beneficial.
It's interesting that you say that. And in speaking yesterday with Tracy and Noelle, I think that that is a statement. But then I look in my backyard, and I'll call my backyard my franchise community.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of franchisees or franchises in my network that are women owned. And one of the things that franchise services does, which is amazing, is they have this concept called a board group. And your board group is just a consistent group of people that you meet with once or twice a year to go over your strategic goals, your strengths, your weaknesses,
Hmm.
any of your challenges. And it's sort of a support system that keeps you accountable to your plans and tries to help you through your struggles. I happen to be in a board group that is only women owners. And I have to say, I came into the print industry later or as a second career.
Hmm.
All these other women have been in the print industry their entire careers. And I don't mind saying, but the majority of those are in the top 10 in each of the brands.
Which is fabulous.
It is.
And I think your experience is probably different than a lot of women that I've talked to, is that, they have some support, but for you to have that kind of a support system from women who really understand what it's like to be a business owner and to be a woman and to be
Mhm.
juggling all of those things, that's amazing. I mean, I wish that I had that. That'd be awesome. Now, talking about being a woman in the printing industry, are there challenges that you've had to overcome because of your gender?
Not in the print industry, really. I mean, every now and then I'll have a customer come in and really want to haggle over a price, and they'll say, and I don't advertise, and I'm very hands-on, and I'm a small company. So, I have an active working role, and my passion is really working with customers and trying to help them achieve their objectives,
Hmm.
through print and all the other add-on services that we have. And every now and then I'll have a customer come in and say, well, I want to speak, because they want to go forward and they want to work with me, but they just don't want to pay the price. And they'll say, I want to speak to the owner. Where is he?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I had a service technician that was just one time being kind of a little ugly to me. And clearly he made some kind of a comment that women shouldn't be using this kind of equipment, or, but I think that's just a jerk. I don't
Yeah.
really.
That doesn't necessarily reflect on the entire male race.
No, I mean, listen, in my previous industry, I flew to Florida to meet with a customer, And when the customer met me in the lobby, when I showed up for my appointment, he said to me, "Where's your boss?" And I said, he's not with me. It's just me. And he left me in the lobby and he stormed into his office and the door was open and he called my boss screaming at the top of his lungs so everybody could hear the conversation. But he flat out refused to meet with me because I was a woman.
What?
Yes. And so my boss flew there the following week and met with him and went through the agenda and said, "Well, Jodi could have done this. Jodi could have done that. Jodi could have done this. Jodi could have done that. And she'll come back next week." And he refused to give in to that.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That is quite entrenched in the stereotype that men are leaders and women can't do the job, which is really sad to see.
Right.
How did you deal with that? I mean, did you have to go back? I'm curious.
I did have to go back and I was very upset for so many reasons because listen, if you don't like me after you meet me or after we have the meeting, if you're not satisfied with the results, that's something to complain about. But you decided you didn't like me and I wasn't qualified just by looking at me.
Yeah.
And whether it was the color of my hair or my height or my weight or anything, but he made no bones about it and didn't care who heard that he wasn't going to meet with a woman. I mean, today I have a different perspective on it, right? Because it happened so long ago. It probably happened in the mid to late 90s, but it was an office with a lot of women also.
Yeah.
It was a shoe company. So, it was a fashion company. What does that lend itself to?
Yeah. And then how do they feel if that's how their boss considers women and dealing with women?
Yeah. So again, today I have a much different perspective on it. Then I was only thinking of myself and how embarrassing that was and how personal I took it. Today, it's not so personal. It is personal for him, not for me.
Yeah. Now, women definitely look at things differently. We're very, very different from men in the way we do a lot of things. So what kind of characteristics or perspectives do women bring to the workforce that might not otherwise be there?
Well, there's a lot of things. So the biggest thing is attention to detail and looking at the whole picture instead of maybe a task by task kind of thing. Even with my husband, it's very funny. I'll send him a text and ask him 3 questions and I only get the answer back to the first. So,
oh, I understand that.
Right. And who can't identify with that? So I think because of the nature of the industry and how it is so much more detailed and how it's so different with all of variable data, and we're going to print it and we're going to mail it and then we're going to look at the results and then we're going to get responses from people and then what are we going to do with those responses? And so the projects are much, much bigger in terms of scope. And
they're more complex too. So
they're much more complex, and it's not about being smarter. It's just about listening to everything that someone's trying to say and understanding it and not doing I feel like really I'm putting things in a stereotype, not that, yeah, of course. Yeah. You don't get that. We don't do that. Maybe we do that with our mothers when they're trying to give us advice, but in general, we're better listeners.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with that.
Most of it really is about the attentiveness to detail, sharing other experiences with other customers who may have done similar things, or bringing pieces of different aspects of just about anything to the table and having a captive audience on both sides. Because now it's a project. It's not a job. Used to just be a job, right? Print 1,000 letterheads, print 1,000 this, print, and close the box and collect the money. And so I just do think the industry changed. So after 20, 30, 40 years of doing the same thing, maybe, and just maybe, people don't want to change, right? Yeah. There's the old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Agreed.
So maybe I'm stuck in my ways about a lot of things too. Maybe you are, maybe we all are. So that's a whole big topic.
And that's a much bigger topic, yes. But change is difficult for people, no matter when they're coming in. I mean, for you to start a whole new career, that is very, very difficult. I couldn't imagine having to, restart a second career, but you've obviously flourished at it because of the strength of your own character and your confidence and your willingness to be flexible too.
Right.
which is definitely something to say about a woman.
Right.
Now, you're a leader. You have a board of other owners and leaders within your franchise network. Why do you feel it's important to have women in those kinds of positions? In many ways, outside of maybe the PIP franchise, most companies are owned by men. Most executives are men in the printing industry. How important is it to have women in those roles, maybe for women entering the industry or for women working in the print industry? Is it important to have women in those leadership positions?
I do think it's important, but I also think that I've conditioned myself, and maybe because of experiences I had where, a person didn't want to meet with me because I was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably conditioned myself very young to not stereotype people because of anything. And when it came to recruiting talent, I never said, well, I think I should look for a male for this position and a female for that position. I've always tried to not look at anyone and just say, are you the best person for the job? So why is it important to have women? I think we have to stop saying that we're so far beyond women stay home and raise the babies. And,
Mm-hmm.
what was that commercial? Something in I fry it up in the pan, like you make the money and I fry it up in the pan. I think it was a perfume commercial or something. I think it's important to say that anybody should be able to do anything they want, so long as they're good at it. So I think saying this is man's work and this is woman's work, I think the print industry, even from my own perspective, I think the print industry was always a male dominated industry. And the definition of print has changed. So I also do think it's important to see that you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you should. A leader is a leader. And I think the fact that there are women leaders is very, very, very empowering to other women, to younger people entering the workforce and say, I'm looking for a career. And there's no longer column A and column B. That column should just be a column, one
Mm-hmm.
column. And the fact that you do have good, strong women leaders is very inspirational.
Yeah, it provides that if she did it, I can do that too,
Sure.
which I think is important for us to have.
Mm-hmm.
And now the question is, as we've said, it's still very much male dominated. How do we get more women to join the print industry? I mean, you had a certain stereotype that the industry was dirty and disgusting and, I don't want anything to do with it. How do we get over that kind of a stereotype and get more, whether it's women actually, or even just bodies and more people interested in the printing industry?
Because I think we have to educate people or inform people that the definition of that industry changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the print industry. I mean, it is about the print industry, but the perception of the print industry being a dirty, boring thing, it's a bigger industry than that right now. It's a much bigger industry, and the definition of print should really, really be more clearly defined, or broadly defined, not clearly, but more broadly. Because I bet if you ask 10 people right now, when you think of print, what do you think of? If you had a job in print, what would your job be? They would say manual labor, filthy, dirty. It's not. Whether it's defining roles and responsibilities or sort of exposing what really goes on in a print facility versus what you think goes on, I think people would be shocked.
I agree. A week or so ago, there was an article in the New York Times following a best-selling book and how it was printed. And a lot of it went back to the old offset presses, and it showed the ink and in the way some of those stereotypes that it was a lot of manual labor. It's dirty because you see their coveralls, they're covered in ink and whatnot. I'm like, that doesn't help the industry's image.
No, take a picture of me. I have pretty long nails.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about ruining my manicure right now running a print job.
Do we still have offset presses, and are still some of those jobs? But that's probably the minority at this point, especially as so much stuff has moved to digital.
Correct. And it hasn't just moved to digital because, there's so many other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So what people once thought of the world of print, the end result may look absolutely the same. And to the naked eye, who cares where it was printed? whether it was printed on a digital press or an offset press, or who cares? Nobody. But maybe we do need to open people's eyes to say, this is what today's print world looks like. And years ago, you couldn't get a printed piece that was so highly personalized. You can today,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to give up a lot. I cherish my partnership with Ricoh because I truly believe that they are somewhat pioneer. And I have one of their machines. I have the 7200, and it has a fifth color. And so there's white, and there's clear, and there's gold, and there's silver. And because of those things, I can now continue to offer my customers more and more products where I don't have to turn on my press just to get gold or silver or foil or all of these things.
Yeah.
So I think just getting a lot of knowledge to people, whether it's in the form of what the print industry really looks like, maybe we could make a sitcom between the trays or something. I don't know. To just,
It would certainly be interesting. And it would certainly be very eye-opening, because I mean, the $100,000 question is, how do we communicate what printing really is to the masses? How do we have that communication and that education?
I think we have to start earlier. So when I went to high school, and you can appreciate this because you grew up in New York too, right?
Mm-hmm.
You either went on a Regents track because you were going to college, or you went a vocational track.
Yeah.
So if we're going to continue to talk about the industry, and some of it is just a skill, but it's a totally different skill set. Someone who could run the press likely could not do the job today, not because they're not capable. It's just a different skill. And maybe it's just not a skill they're good at or will ever be. So I think we do have to define it. And, whether we're getting into schools and career tracks, it's all about the definition. And I think we need to kind of say print is not just a vocation. There's so much more about it. It is a bigger industry, if not in dollars and cents, in capabilities and requirements.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going back to, talking about like the vocational schools, I mean, in junior high, I had to take a tech class. And in that tech class, I got to learn how to operate a one color press. I learned how to, hand do type and all of that stuff. It was probably a letterpress. I honestly don't remember at this point, but I know how to, do hand type and do all of that stuff. But if that's my introduction to the print market, it was hard. It was dirty. It was nothing digital. It was all manual and offset. So
Right.
Starting back then, as a sixth or seventh grader, was I proud of the stuff that I did? Oh, yes, I was. But it didn't make me think, ooh, this is going to be a great career choice.
Right. But then there's the other side of it too, right? We never looked for people in print, and going back to the offset days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say the designers back then weren't good designers. They could only design for the capability of what the output could be.
Exactly.
So when people are taking these design classes or have a desire for design, there should be different education tracks, whether it's digital design for print, but it should be noted as, that type of an education, not how to run a machine, because the running of the machine is on the back end. If all that front end work isn't done, there is nothing to print.
Yeah.
So it's also creating those educational experiences where there's a design for print, and it's not just the what, it's the whys. It is the education of making something look good as well as what effectiveness the piece will have. My current graphic designer that I have right now, when he came in and interviewed for the job, he brought his portfolio, which most designers do bring their portfolio.
Yep.
And I was so blown away, not just because the artwork was good. In his portfolio, it wasn't just, oh, look at this great brochure or postcard or, whatever I created. It was why he created it and what problem it solved. Mm-hmm. So whether it was a branding problem or whether it was how the brand wanted the appeal to the customer to look like. So it was about getting the point across much more than having it look good. It was about the effectiveness and what should this print piece do? not only look good, but what is it supposed to do when it falls into somebody's hands?
Yeah. And that's something that's hard to teach in some ways because they need to understand the whole process.
Right.
And need to have that. That's when the partnership with the customer becomes essential.
Sure.
Because you're helping them solve a problem and, decide on how to run their marketing campaign.
Correct.
So my last question to you is, what advice would you give to young women considering careers in the printing industry today?
I would, again, make sure that they understood what the print industry really is all about and not the stereotypes of what they think. And it is much more than just ink on paper. And it's about all the things that print does for people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's no longer just a commodity. So I feel like defining print and how it can help and what you get of it from satisfaction. Look, if you're really good at math, you can be an accountant, right? Because you can add and subtract and,
Yep.
That's super easy. And you can earn a living doing it. But I think print should be more of a byproduct of marketing or a partner to marketing because it's print and marketing. And maybe it needs the partner to keep it relevant to people entering into it. It's not just the ink. It's not just the what, it's the why.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that they go together and they're not mutually exclusive.
All right, Jodi, we've talked about a lot today, and I do appreciate the time that you've spent with me this morning. Thank you again for your time and your thoughts. I think this was a really, really great conversation. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of our special podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month. Be sure to check out the rest of the interviews and stories we'll be highlighting throughout the month of March.